The echo that refused to die. When love became louder than the world. Seoul never truly sleeps. The city stands like a giant mirror, reflecting light, swallowing sound, concealing secrets. Yet that night, in the chaos of neon lights, something outshone every screen: silence. Not ordinary silence. This was a silence carved with scars, a silence born from words finally spoken, from a smile that could never be taken back. Because after Dodger, after Stay Awake, after the fire that refused to burn out, the world waited. Waited for something more than rumors, more than leaked files. The world waited for an answer. And the answer did not come through a stage, nor a press conference, nor a corporate strategy. It came in the simplest form, a song never officially released, yet somehow slipped into the hearts of millions. They called it the echo. A whisper becomes a wave. It began as nothing more than a fragment, a 13-second audio clip uploaded by an anonymous account. A hazy recording with the sound of passing cars, the breeze rustling, and then harmony. Two voices weaving into each other. Jungkook, high and fragile like shards of glass. Taehyung, deep and warm like earth-steadying footsteps. Even if they silence us, our hearts will still sing. Just one line. Then silence. But that silence resonated, rippling from screen to screen, from ear to ear. Until no one could pretend not to hear. That night, the #1 trend on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube was the same. Hashtag their echo. Hashtag let them sing. Hashtag Taekook truth. Media trembled, the world divided. CNN wrote, "The Echo, a new chapter in music or in love?" BBC called it, "When Silence Becomes a Song." And in Seoul, one bold newspaper printed the headline, "Jungkook and Taehyung more than idols?" Investors grew restless. Emergency meetings were called in glass towers. Sponsors threatened to walk away. But nothing could stop the echo. For once truth slips out, it cannot be shoved back into a cage. Army as witnesses, not just fans. In forums, Army no longer speculated. They wrote open letters, printed posters, plastered messages on bridges, train stations, and small LED billboards in city corners. Don't silence love. Let them be free. The echo lives in us. And more surprising, voices outside the fandom joined in. International musicians uploaded a cappella covers of the 13-second line. Poets wrote verses. Artists painted murals. Even a philosophy professor in Paris declared on live TV. The echo is no longer just about two men. It is about the world's right to love without fear. Behind locked doors. But far from the noise, in a hotel room with curtains drawn tight, two silhouettes sat side by side. Jungkook stared at his phone screen, watching how his own voice, once hidden, now filled the entire world. His hand trembled. "Have we gone too far?" he whispered. Taehyung turned, his gaze calm like an ocean never weary of storms. "It isn't us who went too far," he answered. "It's them, finally listening." Silence fell between them. But this time it wasn't fear. This silence was a promise. The final billboard. A week later, major cities erupted again. Not from rumors, not from new leaks. But from a black billboard glowing in Seoul, Tokyo, and New York, lit simultaneously. No logos. No sponsors. Just one line written in plain white letters. The echo is not just ours. It's yours too. A world with no return. In that moment, everyone understood, this was no longer about fandom. No longer about entertainment controversy. This was a movement. This was history being written before their eyes. And through it all, Jungkook and Taehyung remained silent. No livestream. No clarification. No interviews. Only silence that, ironically, grew louder by the day. Because now the world knew. Dodger was the spark. Stay Awake was the prayer. The fire was resistance. The confession was truth. And the echo was legacy. A resonance that refused to die. That night in the same room, Jungkook placed a guitar on his lap. Taehyung leaned against the wall, eyes half closed. "What if this is the end?" Jungkook asked softly. Taehyung smiled faintly, opening his eyes. There is no end to something that has already become an echo. It will live, even when we stop singing. And outside the window, Seoul buzzed with thousands of voices. No longer just the sound of concerts, but the sound of a world that had chosen to listen. Because love, once spoken, can never truly be hidden again. The echo that refused to die. Not just a story. Not just a rumor, but a revolution. And we all are witnesses to history still being written. The storm that learned to sing. When the world could no longer pretend. The echo had already spread. From Dodger, Tokyo, New York to the narrow alleys of Seoul. But an echo, when it refuses to fade, always reshapes itself into something greater, a storm. And the storm had begun to form. The night the streets became a stage. It wasn't a concert. No tickets. No sponsors. No official stage. Just hundreds, then thousands of army gathering in Hongdae carrying small speakers, posters, and phone screens. They played again and again the 13-second fragment known as the echo. Even if they silence us, our hearts will still sing. Jungkook and Taehyung's voices cracked through cheap speakers, yet because of that they felt even more real. Strangely, passers-by stopped. Young people, office workers, even the elderly. They didn't know the full story, but they knew what they were hearing. That night, Seoul transformed into a wild stage, where a song never officially released was sung by thousands of mouths. HYBE frozen. Behind the windows of tall office towers, another emergency meeting was held. Words like contract, investors, damage control floated in the air. But one sentence finally cut through, cold as a knife. Whatever they do now is no longer ours to control. And that was their greatest fear. The world begins to speak. The New York Times wrote an editorial. The echo is not just music. It is a civil cry. A singer in London standing on stage declared, "This is not just about them. This is about all of us who ever had to love in silence." In universities, students quoted the lyric in protest speeches. On city walls, murals of Jungkook and Taehyung appeared, not as idols but as symbols. In a dark room. Yet the two figures themselves remained hidden. Jungkook sat with his head bowed, hair covering his eyes, guitar resting on his lap. Taehyung lay on a small sofa, staring at the ceiling, his fingers tapping out an unheard rhythm. "The louder they sing," Jungkook whispered, "the more afraid I get." Taehyung opened his eyes, turned, then sat up. Afraid of what? Afraid that one day they'll stop. That one day the echo will vanish. Taehyung gave a faint smile, then took the guitar from Jungkook's hands. He strummed a low note, a simple sound that filled the room. "Echoes don't vanish," he said. "They only grow into something bigger. And this time, it's no longer just us singing. A new song." The next night, a mysterious video appeared on YouTube. Poor quality. A static camera in the corner of a room. Two silhouettes sitting on the floor. No clear faces. No title. Just sound. A new song. The lyrics rose like a prayer sent into the sky. "We were shadows once. But they turned us into fire. We were whispers once. But now the storm is a choir." The video didn't last long, deleted within minutes. But it was too late. Thousands had already downloaded, shared, and translated it. They named it The Storm. From echo to storm. Now the world could no longer pretend. The echo was a whisper. The storm was a roar. And everyone understood, this was no longer just about hidden love. This was about a truth too vast to be buried. The last night of silence. In that same room after the video leaked, Jungkook covered his face with both hands. His breath was heavy. "This is insane. We didn't even plan any of this." Taehyung gently pulled his hands down, holding them, meeting his eyes for a long moment. "Storms are never planned, Jungkook. They just arrive. And we are the center of it." Silence fell again. But this time it was no longer fear, no longer hiding. This silence was the pause before the world truly changed. The dawn that refused to wait. When the sky finally chose their side. The storm had passed. But that didn't mean the world returned to calm. Because after a storm, there is something even more powerful, dawn. And dawn did not come slowly, did not come gently. It came like an explosion of light that refused to be delayed. The first light. Tokyo, Seoul, Paris, New York, each city awoke on the same morning. On every giant screen where usually there were ads for cars, cosmetics, or the latest dramas, a single video appeared at once. No sponsors. No official signatures. Just one video. Black and white. Blurry. Two silhouettes sitting close. One guitar. One microphone. And then voices. Jungkook, cracked but honest. "We are tired of being shadows." Taehyung, deep and warm. "So we chose to be the dawn." That was all. 2 sentences. The screens went dark again. But the world had already changed. The world answers. CNN, The Dawn, not just a song but a declaration. BBC, From Dodger to Dawn, the love story the world refuses to forget. And in Seoul, one bold newspaper wrote the headline. BTS's Taehyung and Jungkook, not rumors but revolution. Meanwhile, on social media, ARMY wrote only 3 words. We chose Dawn. HYBE silent, the world singing. This time there was no official statement. No clarification. No emergency meetings. Because even the biggest company knew, this had gone beyond their control. All that remained was a world singing. In Berlin, hundreds gathered in a square, lighting candles, singing fragments of the dawn even though it wasn't complete. In Buenos Aires, a giant mural of 2 silhouettes appeared on an old wall with the words, "Love is the dawn." In Jakarta, thousands of ARMY gathered, singing the lyrics in translation, "We chose dawn." 2 figures, 1 light. Meanwhile, in the same hotel room, Jungkook stared at his phone screen. His eyes glistened. Do you see this? Taehyung sat beside him, their shoulders touching. I see. It's no longer just about us. Taehyung turned, his smile calm. I know. But isn't that beautiful? The love we tried to hide has now become dawn for millions. Jungkook closed his eyes, taking a deep breath. Then what's our next step? Taehyung gazed out the window toward the city just awakening. The next step? We don't need to decide it. Dawn never asks for permission to come. It simply arrives. The closing. Dodger was the spark. Stay awake was the prayer. The fire was rebellion. The echo was legacy. The storm was a roar. And the dawn was light. A light that could no longer be extinguished. A light that refused to wait. Because when 2 hearts finally choose to speak, even the sky itself must take a side. And that night the world knew, the sky had chosen. The dawn that refused to wait. Dawn is not the end. It is only the beginning of a longer, brighter, more honest day. See you in the next video. Stay with us because this story has only just begun.